Hello again, friends, and you are my friends, and welcome to a match preview from Talking Town. I'm your host, The Gov, and if you're watching live, please do get active in our live chat, get your opinions heard, such as Steve Howard here, who says it's going to be near impossible to get anything from Saturday. That's what I like, Steve, starting to show off on a positive foot. But with the positivity from last weekend, we must give us the confidence that anything is possible. Certainly is, Steve. If you're watching on catch up, please do still comment, FTA, comment for that algorithm, like, subscribe, all of that absolutely wonderful business we get you to do. But welcome one and welcome all. We're going to discuss some topics that are ITFC related. We're going to obviously look ahead to this weekend's home game to Newcastle. Can Town make it back-to-back wins? We'll look at who else is playing across the weekend, who they're playing rather, and all those wonderful business. But joining me to do this is the one, the only, the peaky one, Mr. Mark Touchford. Mark, welcome. It's been a while. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm really good. We can't obviously move forward with that, but about first looking back, and obviously, you know, Jack Taylor, last minute winner, very last minute, very last kick of the ball, if you like. Gary O'Neill sacked on the back of that. Been more positivity floating around the social media spaces. How have you seen it? What are your thoughts before we finally turn that page?
Yeah, well, it's always great to get a win, second win of the season, and you know, it doesn't really matter how it comes about as long as you get those sort of 3 points, really. And you know, I think the kind of the first goal we scored was, you know, probably a little bit of luck, if anything. But you know, it's not to say that we haven't deserved some luck over the course of the season. And as McKenna has sort of said throughout the season, that those things do sort of even themselves out a little bit over the course of the season. So yeah, we sort of rubbed the green, I suppose, with that. But I wasn't particularly surprised that Gary O'Neill got the boot afterwards. I was sitting with a mate watching it on Soccer Saturday, and I said to him, "He'll probably go after this game, I think," because I think it was quite telling from his post-match interview that he was kind of saying that he can't get the best from the players anymore. So when you come out and say that, you kind of know that you've either lost the dressing room or you can't do anything more in terms of turning this around. So I wasn't too surprised. But yeah, there's obviously been a couple of casualties this week, isn't there?
I was going to say, yeah. Then
Russell Martin at Southampton. Yeah.
24 hours, Russell Martin off the back of a 5-0 home defeat to Tottenham. It was five within half hour or so. It was really bad. And obviously Russell Martin is now no longer Southampton manager there. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I suppose that one was a bit more of a surprise, I guess. I know obviously Southampton have been great this year, but I did think they'd sort of hold out a little bit, certainly till sort of January, really. But you know, I suppose if you keep losing games especially in the manner of that defeat, then there's got to be question marks, really. But yeah, I suppose it's kind of a worry for us in a way because, you know, they're going to regroup again, both Wolves and Southampton, who are obviously in and around us. You know, with a new manager bounce potentially, getting new players coming in, all that sort of stuff. So
yeah,
it's a positive for them, but I don't know what that kind of means for us moving forward.
Potentially could be a positive, you know, if they make the right choice, the right decision. Obviously, we've got a little bit of points on them now, thanks to that win against Wolves. It does make the point away at St Mary's look even more atrocious as the season unfolds, you know, because they have been a club in turmoil, let's be honest. But you mentioned new players coming in. We sit here, we're a week from Christmas Day, 2 weeks from near enough completely. Well, no, not near enough. We'll be turning the page on 2024 in 2 weeks' time, whether we like it or not. That will happen. And obviously, a transfer window will then open. And Lat's agent this week saying, you know, expects. I think his words were something along the lines of something to happen in January. Is that a player you'd revisit, Latty Lath? Is he on your shopping list, or would you be looking at other targets?
I think he's certainly a player that, you know, we seem to like at the moment. It kind of reminds me of the Jack Taylor saga a little bit, where, you know, we didn't sign him in one window, but then went back for him and signed him again. So, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if we go out and get him. But what I am surprised about is probably the player's agent coming out and saying, you know, he expects something to happen. You know, I think if I was a Borough fan, I'd be, well, why are you saying that now when we're in the midst of a promotion or promotion sort of battle, if you like? But yeah, I was surprised that he come out and said that, if I'm honest.
Yeah, agent Yeah, I was surprised that sort of came out into the news, as it were. I think it was sort of a mention within an interview, something he said within an interview that wasn't perhaps necessarily about that topic. Even I'm not quite sure, having not fully looked into it. But it's always interesting when agents speak, because obviously they are very key to the transfer jigsaw, integral in most of them. Does that mean he's coming to town? Time will tell. Is it a player that is high on your shopping list, Tucks, of strikers? I mean, is it a striker you're I mean, it's got to be, right, that you're targeting first?
Yeah, well, I mean, definitely need a striker. There's no two ways about that, because I think obviously Al Hamadi needs to go out and get a loan, probably in the Championship, to really give him some regular game time, and sort of carve out a bit more of a future with us, whatever league we're in next year. Which, yeah, I think the new striker would allow him to do that. But I think in terms of what we need, there's sort of two ways of looking at it. I think it's, do you go for somebody else that is in the same mould as a Delap and a Hurst, where it could be like someone like Evan Ferguson, or do you go for somebody who's a bit more, I guess, quicker, like someone like Latte Laff, really? So, it's up for debate, but I wouldn't be too disappointed if we got him. But that's the main thing we need is a striker at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously we're going to touch on that as we go through the show. With the Lap not playing this weekend, who would you have starting in that place? We'll get through that at some point. But a striker certainly has to be, the priority, because you can always sit here at any time of the season and look at your squad and think, we could do a right back or a left wing or a right wing or whatever position you really, as a fan, feel you're vulnerable. But I think we can all agree, for the first time perhaps in a long time as a fan base, that striker is the only priority, really. We have to get accomplished in January, if not, by 2nd, 3rd, 4th of January. It has to be, we have to really know our targets, line up our targets, and bring one in really quickly. Lots of love coming in, obviously, for the fixture that's coming up. Owen says, get the Latte Lath deal done nice and early, Mr. Ashton. Yeah, that is a player, obviously. I think he'd do well at Town and under McKenna. I still want Leonidas, the Greek striker, personally, but that's just because I spent the whole summer learning his name and learning how to pronounce it in preparation, and then he didn't sign. Talking of McKenna, 3 years were celebrated this year. Wonderful 3 years, magical 3 years, and as tough as it might be, I'm going to ask you, Tux, what's your favourite McKenna moment in those 3 years?
There's so many in there, Gov, but I think
so many.
I think for me personally, I think what kind of all kicked it off, I suppose, from that sort of League One promotion was the Barnsley away trip.
Oh yes, George Hurst.
Yeah, and that was a really good atmosphere that night. And yeah, it's a very good game, to be honest with you. I mean, some good goals that we scored as well, and that really, I think, set the tone a little bit, set the fire for the belief of what we can do as a club, especially in that that season where we was going to get promoted from League One ultimately. So I think that's definitely up there. Yeah, there's probably too many to sort of tell, really. I think it's just nice to, when you kind of look back over the years, certainly in my time supporting the club, it's been such a kind of a downward sort of spiral, really. It's been so depressing, and it felt more like a chore going to Portman Road or away games or whatever it might be, kind of supporting the lads. And I know you should support the club through thick and thin and all that sort of stuff, and we all do, but there does come a point where you sit there and you think, why am I doing this type thing? And I think when you think about when McKenna came in 3 years ago, we were building something, but it just missed that something as well. And you've got to look at what Paul Cook has done, in a sense, where he's brought a lot of that sort of core team were some of his signings. So players like Morsey, I don't know if McKenna would have gone for that type of player if he wasn't already at the club. So there's someone there that was a Paul Cook signing, and I think you kind of have to look at a little bit at what Paul Cook sort of laid some foundations there. Obviously, a lot of that is Ashton and the new owners as well, but I think McKenna came in at the right time to really kick it all off. But I do remember at the time, and I think probably amongst the fan base, it was quite divided in was McKenna the right man? Is he too young? He's not had much experience. Why are we getting rid of Paul Cook? All that type of thing. And I think if I cast my mind back, I think I was probably sitting there thinking, is this really the right time to let Paul Cook go? I know there was lots of things, why he probably left in the end, but I think from the outsider's point of view at that time, I was kind of a bit confused by it. And then getting linked with somebody like McKenna, where, let's face it, United at the time weren't great. Everything within the club wasn't great. So, pinching one of their so-called, good coaches, were they actually going to turn out to be good? Especially when they've had no managerial experience. So, yeah, I think you've got to look back at that and really sort of just appreciate where we've come from a little bit.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you there. Because obviously sitting in this chair, I'm very fortunate to talk to a lot of fans and hear a lot of opinions. And one of the major ones that stands out from that time was, does he need someone experienced next to him? And Mike Phelan was a name that was mentioned time and time again about, would he bring someone with him, or would he end up taking on someone just to give him that experience that perhaps he didn't have? And that was a big question mark. And at the time, I think many people wanted Neil Warnock. They were, people were sort of aching for an experienced head that's been there, done it, got the titles on the wall, because we wanted to go places and we could see the investment coming in. And that's where you got. Oh, don't know what happened there. Apologies. I am back. I think the Wi-Fi is playing up. We'll get some comments until Tux comes back to me. Lynn Phillips, mine was that night. He just gazed at the fans. Yeah, I wasn't there. It was Coventry away, was it not, Lynn? It remind me if I'm wrong. Chai says the 3-2 win for Southampton was the best by an absolute mile. It certainly was. 3-2. Jeremy Sarmiento, great moment. How many times have you watched that, by the way? I've watched it quite a few times, and in the last week, I am still watching it. Don't forget, we are partnered with, and I don't think I might need to use them, with the East Anglian Air Ambulance. Play the weekly East Anglian Air Ambulance Lottery. The easiest way to play is online. Sign up now for just £1 a ticket for a chance to win of 18 weekly prizes ranging from £50 to £1,000. Players must be aged 18 or over. Please be gamble aware. Tux, welcome back. I'm not sure what happened there. Everything just sort of went round in a circle and we all disappeared on each other. But I was just saying, a real ballsy move by the ownership and Ashton at the time to appoint a manager that hadn't managed before, was young, had a lot of potential. But, at a time of investment and a time of a journey where perhaps many fans were clamoring for that experience there, that was a real ballsy move to identify and go with what would be a gut reaction there.
Yeah, well, I think if you listen to, certainly previous interviews that Ashton's given, he did a lot of research into young coaches and, who was going to come along and sort of take over the mantle, I suppose. So... Yeah. It still was a bit of a ballsy move for a young manager to come in with all that sort of pressure. A club like us, the size of it, I guess, in League One is always going to be a challenge. And you'd like to think that, if McKenna had gone in the summer, then it probably would have been another type coach of something similar to McKenna in a way. So I don't think he's silly, Ashton. I think he would have, as I say, done his research. But yeah, it's been a wonderful 3 years.
It truly has. You're right.
And it's really hard. It is really, you're going back to your first question. It's really hard to sort of pick out that sort of real moment. I think for me, obviously, promotion is, was massive.
Which one?
Like, when you think about it, when you think about those back-to-back promotions, if I was to explain it in my point of view, I remember being at both promotions at the home games.
Mm.
The League one felt more like relief. And I don't know whether it was more that we were kind of expecting it to happen.
Yeah.
But it felt more like relief. And then obviously the year after getting promoted from the Championship, that really was pure, jubilation and, obviously fans going on the pitch and all that sort of stuff. So, there was so many different emotions throughout those two promotions, which is weird in a way.
I agree. That promotion from League One was a collective sigh of relief, a collective closing of a chapter that the club should never have found itself in the sense of it should never have been in League One. We all knew this is a club that was sliding towards League One, but we always felt this is a club that should never be in League One, and it shouldn't. And then when we actually landed there, we all thought it's only a pit stop. Then we had this great start under Lambert, Dreamland. Return will be imminent. Then it nosedived, and then it was chaotic, then investment, and then sort of Town have got investment, but it stopped start again because the start hasn't been great, and then change of manager. So I think I completely get where you're coming from. That big sigh of relief, closed the chapter. But the second promotion was absolutely dreamland stuff. We all dreamed of being back in the Premier League. None of us expected to be back in the Premier League. None of us thought this is a club that should be in the Premier League. We all thought, it's a club that had the potential to be a Premier League team and should probably be a Premier League team, but it wasn't an expected why we're not in the Premier League. So that was a dreamland moment. Yeah, I'm with you on that 100%. But we are in the Premier League now. I'm turning our attention to this week. Obviously, before we do, who are the rest playing around us? Well, Palace host Arsenal, Everton host Chelsea, and Leicester play Wolves. What are you thinking out of those three games? Palace host Arsenal, Everton host Chelsea. So potentially, both teams around us could lose this week. Although Arsenal obviously have been on a bit of a
well, they drew, didn't they, against Everton last weekend.
0-0.
And Palace have had a bit of an upturn in form recently.
They have
started scoring goals. So, Palace at home, are they?
Palace host Arsenal. Yeah.
So it might be a bit of a tricky one. Well, I want Arsenal to win, obviously. So I think, maybe a 2-1 there potentially.
Yeah. Everton host Chelsea. Obviously, Everton. I mean, Chelsea are a red hot team. You feel like at the moment. But Leicester play Wolves, which is really, really interesting because obviously Wolves, unless something's changed today, which I've not managed to catch hold of, are managerless still. They've got an interim manager in charge. Leicester have gone early with their managerial change and had perhaps maybe their bounce. I don't know. They got beat last week. Interesting game that. You don't really want either side picking up points, but one of them's got to. Or is a boring 0-0 draw the best case scenario here for Ipswich? What's best?
I think in terms of a 0-0, I think I could see that happening in the Everton-Chelsea game. It just sort of seems to me that might sort of cancel each other out a little bit. But I suppose it's got to be, obviously you want, the other teams to beat those around us. But, I suppose a point isn't the end of the world. But it means that we have to, start getting our own points on the board. So,
Yeah, exactly. So our own points on the board. Think about ourselves. We've got Arsenal and Chelsea after Newcastle. So 3 tough games coming up. Newcastle, Arsenal, Chelsea. Home advantage this weekend. Can Town take advantage of the home field? Tux, is this a winnable game? Is this a game Town can win? They haven't got the lap. How's your confidence heading into it?
To be honest with you, I'm not confident. I think it's more because of
You're
the lap not playing. Well,
all right.
And that. But the lap not playing because he gives us that outlet and he takes us up the pitch. So, and also with Hurst not around, it's difficult. And, the thing is, it's kind of one of them where, the obvious kind of start to me would be Ali Ahmadi. But at the same time, I don't know. I mean, should it be Shimodix, and he's not a striker, obviously.
Well, this is it. I tell you one thing. We got 3 points last weekend. Jack Taylor's beautiful header won us the game. We've got to be better in larger parts of the game this Saturday. No disrespect to Wolves, Newcastle. You expect it will be a step up on them. And let's be honest. I think if we all take the second goal out of it just for a minute, and you can't do because it's an important part of the game. The second half felt at times one-way traffic. Yeah, it felt like we were on the back foot.
Yeah, Wolves definitely had a lot of chances that again they probably should have scored, and on another day, another team they probably go in. So we can't give those types of chances away to a Newcastle side. Isaac's in red hot form, isn't he? So and for me that's probably why I'm not so confident. But if we can sort of grind out quite a defensive sort of display,
which I don't see under McKenna. I don't see us sort of grinding out.
No, I don't.
I think our best. I think he sees it. I see it. Perhaps we all see it. Our best form of defense is attack. Just got to keep better in key areas. Particularly and you can say we were fine. We didn't concede in those moments, but a better team may punish you, as we've seen through the course of the season. But this is certainly a game Town can go in with full of confidence. You know, beaten Tottenham away, you've beaten Wolves away, you're off the back of a victory.
Well, I mean,
Palace used our victory as a springboard.
Yeah, I mean, let's have it right. You know, every team can beat anyone in this league, right? You know,
Absolutely.
we've seen that already this season. We're going to see it again, you know, throughout this season. You know,
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
But I suppose it's more, you know, Delap is such a key
You're full
player.
of trepidation. You're not quite sure. You're not. You've seen us beat Tottenham, then host Bournemouth and Palace at home, and get nothing. You're yeah. I fully get where you're coming from, Tux, in that trepidation. You're not quite sure.
We seem to play better against the bigger teams,
which Newcastle are over the Wolves anyway.
So you'd like to think maybe that might go in our favour, because it seems to me that maybe we've struggled against, you know, certainly a Palace. They're very, very organised. While they probably didn't, you know, have too many shots on target, they were very, very organised. There wasn't really anything they got wrong in that game, because they're very, very organised defensively. But going up against a team that likes to attack and will come here thinking, we can probably get 3 points, or we should be getting 3 points.
Yeah.
You know, you'd like to think, okay, maybe we might sort of turn the screw a little bit. But, you know, as I say, the main thing that I'm really not confident about is who is going to be up front, I guess, because Delap will be a huge miss. I just don't know. Do you throw Ali in? This is the thing. Do you throw him in?
Let's break it down. Do you change formation? Do you throw Ali up front? Do you play Schmodics up front? Let's start from front to back, unlike back to front like we normally do. Are you first of all going to change formation to perhaps accommodate another set of strikers, 3 players, 2 players, whatever? Or are you simply looking at it, formation stays the same and it's a straight race between, you know, do I decide to put Ali up front, or do I decide to put Sammy Schmodics up front?
Well, I don't think he's going to change the formation. I'll be surprised if he does. I know he will make changes, because McKenna will make changes for, you know, certain games tactically and all that kind of areas. But, you know, you've still got to have a striker at the end of the day, you know, whatever formation he plays. So, you know, you're going to have to look at either an Ali or a Schmodics, or, you know, he could spring a surprise and maybe put Jack Clark up front or something like that. Do you know what I mean? But I just don't know what he's going to do. And this is probably one of the most difficult decisions I think McKenna's had, because he's not got his better strikers available. He's got to look at Ali and think, okay, well, you know, you're my third choice striker. You're probably going to go out on loan, but go out there, give it your best, and we'll see what happens. But I don't think he'll play the whole game. I think he's probably not 100% fully fit, is he? So, you know, I think he'll probably play, you know, 45, 60 minutes, whatever it might be, and then Schmodics. But I don't know, is he injured? I don't know. He didn't play against Wolves, did he?
He was unwell, I believe, Schmodics. Right. So you're hoping he's fully recovered. So let's put it on the table, right? So all things, and I want your help in the chat at home. Let us know if you're watching on catch up. Comment in the comments with your thoughts. Let's have it on the table. So you've got Broadhead who's played up front. Very similar sort of time of the year, really. Last December, I think it was, back end of December, maybe start of January. Broadhead was playing as a striker. You've got Sammy Schmodics who could play up front. You've got a pinch, maybe Connor Chaplin who could play up front, but I don't see him moving out of his 10. And of course, you've got Ali. What does your gut say would be the right decision? So forget what Kieran might do for a minute. What is your gut as a fan of this club since the day you were born, Mark Tuxford, say you should do?
I'd personally do Schmodics up front.
Okay.
But as I say, I think he would go for Ali, just because I think if it kind of sort of shows that if you're the only available striker, if I don't start you in this game, that's
not a great message, is it?
Yeah.
I've gone back and forth on this topic in my mind all day long, and I still can't categorically tell you what I think the best decision would be. You know, is it Ali starting up front, playing 60, 70, then Schmodics coming on? Is it a Sammy Schmodics playing 60, 70, then Ali coming on? I really can't, and that's shows where we are, shows where we're really light, shows why we need that striker in desperately that gives you that confidence that when 1 or 2 go down, which in this case both 1 and 2 have gone down in Delap and Hurst, you've got somebody that you can lead the line with. Ali, I feel, plays best in latter stages of the game when players are fatigued, tiring. His pace is an injection on the game. We saw it in the last home game where he came on and created some unpredictability about the play. His pace just created that speed of game to tick up a little bit, which suited us at the time. Didn't get anything from it, but it did suit us at the time. And of course, we saw it against Wolves, where it constantly was a thorn in the Wolves' backside last few minutes of the game because his pace was a danger to him. Will he have that same freeness, that same impact when players aren't as fatigued in minute 5, minute 15, for example? Not quite sure. Can Szmodics hold the line? Do you feel the same way Delap can?
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? I think with Szmodics, you've almost got to sort of change the way that we are playing in a way. I'm not talking about formation. I'm talking about that. We like to play out from the back, and that's great. And we like to sort of pass it into the forward. Delap turns and spins and sort of runs off with the ball.
Mm-hmm.
If we can do that, if we can do that, that's great. But where we would then sort of fall down is when we do hump it long up to Delap, who will win it in the air. More often than not, he wins it in the air. But Szmodics isn't going to do that. But what Szmodics will give you is still the same work rate, still a great finisher. So if we can play to Szmodics' strengths, and I'm assuming they're probably doing that in training at the moment, so you'd like to think so. But that's where I think Ali would then come on in my opinion, he'd come on in the second half and then sort of take over that mantle a little bit.
I actually think if you are going to start Ali Al-Hamadi up front from minute 1, and I know you said you're not, but if you are, if you actually might be best changing how you approach the game and being less front foot, more back foot, because if you invite Newcastle onto you, they will obviously do what most teams do, and we're the same. Brings their fullbacks high, brings their 2 centre halves high. They start playing on the halfway line. They start playing inside your own area, and that leaves a huge amount of space for a very fast player in Ali. And if you invite them on, that could be your counterpunch, in that you've got that ability to then go long over the top, which it's not a long ball, it's a more measured ball, but you're playing to Ali's strengths then, aren't you? You're not asking to hold the ball up against a Newcastle centre half that's going to be strong and physically imposing. That's not his game.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and it could work, but for me, our game management isn't 100% yet. And when we're letting the team come onto us, it kind of feels like we're going to concede.
For sure,
it's a bit of a dangerous way to play, especially if you're playing that from an early part of the game. I agree. So for me, I don't know. I mean, as I say, I think we've got to kind of treat it more that Szmodics would be like a false 9, if anything. And kind of link up a little bit more with Chaplin or whoever's going to be in the 10. And then obviously you've got the wingers to run off him. But he's not going to win it in the air, right? He's not going to win that ball in the air. So we have to keep it on the ground. And that should play to our strengths. We've got some technical players, so that should actually play to our strengths a bit more. But I don't know what he's going to do. I really don't. But if it was me, I think I'd start Szmodics. Yeah,
and looking at Newcastle, obviously they're playing tonight. Looking like they've got a fairly strong lineup out tonight, which might help Town, obviously. You've got Isak up front, Gordon playing. So some key players for Newcastle in the League Cup quarter-final tonight, which is a good thing for Ipswich, because obviously they play on Saturday. Not that much recovery time might mean they rotate their squad a little bit. Anytime you can get key players playing 2 days before you play is a good moment. Moving behind the striker, then, whoever that may be, got many comments in about who they'd play. Some are saying Ali. Most are playing Szmodics. Show says Szmodics are good on the break. Sam will be pivotal, says Telenani. Welcome to the show, Telenani. Thanks for giving the comment. So it really is, even in the chat. Most are saying Szmodics, but even then, Owen says Szmodics drifting from left wing, 10-9 low. 10/9 loads at Blackburn. Interesting the way he goes. That's probably the biggest interesting thing we're going to find out on Saturday. Who's the 3 behind him for you? Because on Saturday, obviously, it was Burns, Chaplin, and Amari. With Szmodics possibly playing up front, is it the same 3? Are you changing those 3? What's your 3 behind whoever it is up front?
I think if you go on kind of sort of strongest 11 available, I think Amari's got to be on the right for me now.
Agreed.
And then you'd have Chaplin probably in the 10.
Agreed.
And then there's probably a bit of a question mark on the left, I guess, whether you go for it depends what Szmodics is doing, obviously, but a Szmodics or a Jack Clark. But
I go Jack Clark, ex-Sunderland, Newcastle. Mick McCarthy used to love playing players against their old clubs.
Yeah,
I'm kind of going the sort of a very same direction here in the sense of I'm playing an ex-Sunderland player against Newcastle and hoping that he's bang up for it and turns on absolutely magic.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if Broadhead gets a start, just because we haven't got an out-and-out striker. Szmodics and Broadhead might sort of swap a little bit.
Yeah, I'm tempted by Broadhead up front.
That could be something that happens, but I think it was Colin that said in the chat that he expects Broadhead to go in January. I'm fully expecting him to go. I don't think he's got much of a future, if I'm honest.
I certainly think it's a loan period, or as I said on the Sunday show, part of a deal. Cash plus player. So the player being Broadhead in this instance. I am intrigued, and I know he's not a striker. I know he's not an out-and-out striker, but he's played there before, and he's played down under McKenna. I am intrigued by perhaps a Broadhead up front, Szmodics left combination where they interchange. You're never quite sure, of who's really playing up front because their movement is so high, you can never really pinpoint it.
Well, Broadhead played as a 9 for Sunderland.
So and he's played up front, hasn't he? When we had injuries,
and he was very good. I know, like he also played as a wide player for Sunderland as well. But there was a point where he was playing number 9 and he was scoring goals. And I think he also scored in the cup against Arsenal, maybe when he was playing for Sunderland. So
against us, didn't he, as a striker as well?
Yeah, but the thing was, he played well for Sunderland as a striker, but when he played for us as a striker, I didn't think he was that great at all. And I don't know if it was just that he's obviously that much older, or in a different team, whatever it might be. But I wasn't really overly impressed by him.
No, I could see there. Yeah, no, it wasn't what we were hoping from that role.
Yeah,
but I just want to see him in the team. This is, but time, play squads upgrades, or if they have upgraded, some will argue that position hasn't. Hello, I'm back. Oh no, I'm back, and I just had myself off. I've got some comments coming in, which I'll come to in a second. I'm not quite sure what's going on this evening, Tux. I'm not quite sure. I'm going to have to get on the phone to Matt's mate, Dave, and see what's the internet package he sold me, because clearly it ain't.
Who's your internet provider, Gov?
Right now?
Yeah.
Tin Can and String.
Well, yeah.
So it's like the old 90s, when you used to pick up the phone, all you get is...
Yeah, dial up, yeah.
Yeah, that's all you'd get. And your dad would go, who's on the computer again?
Yeah.
I'll write a phone call. Yeah, sorry, Dad. Yeah, apparently I've been cancelled. Yeah, well, it's been a long time coming. Right, we're back in the room. Midfield 2 for you, Morsey and Kayus. We'll try and wrap it up before the internet decides to go off completely. So Morsey and Kayus, or is it somebody different?
Yes, I think Morsey and Kayus, but obviously Jack Taylor's got a shout in there, hasn't he? I'd like to know what you think about Phillips, Gov. I mean, why do you think he's not playing at all now?
Well, because the two ahead of him are playing really well. Simple as that, really. I think McKenna has settled now on these are their positions. So Morsey is the position he plays, and Phillips is his understudy, which is not the greatest work, because obviously Phillips is a quality player, many international. He's not a young player; he's an understudy. But you get what I mean, in terms of the hierarchy of the 1 and 2. And I think he views Taylor as the understudy to Kayust, and I think he now views it that way. So if Morsey was injured, let's say Morsey gets an illness and he can't play Saturday, I think he'd go Phillips and Kayust.
Yeah.
And the same with if Kayust got an illness, but Morsey could play, I think he'd go Morsey and Taylor, which he has done in previous weeks. So I think he's finally settled on how he views those 4 players. Obviously, that leaves Mass in 5th. But I think that's where we are with it. So really, it's a case of when Morsey can play, you're more times than not going to see Phillips on the bench, probably not coming on, because Morsey rarely goes off, if ever goes off. So that's where I think he is, and I genuinely think he's been, obviously been injured, fitness, and people keep asking me, Tux, would you terminate the loan? And I keep saying that. Why would you?
Well, this is what I was about to say, because
quality players away from your football club.
Yeah, but
when you bemoan the quality on the bench, it only takes Sam Morsey to get an injury. He's not invincible. Okay, so what can happen to other players can happen to you, and nobody wants to see him go down injured. But the moment he went down injured, people would then say, "Why did we send Phillips back?"
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but I suppose the question I would ask is that, if somebody's not playing, and is not coming off the bench as a loan, you're using up one of our loan options, right? So would you not then consider sending Phillips back to City, if there's an option to do that, and then bringing somebody else in that will actually, I don't know, not that Phillips isn't competing, but like adds that kind of competition a bit more, because it sort of seems to me that Phillips isn't doing that. He's kind of, as you say, McKenna's made his mind up on him in a way that he's kind of second option to Morsey. So should there not be somebody coming in to keep Morsey on his toes?
Well, that would be Phillips. Now, obviously, what we must point out is we don't know the full fitness of Phillips following the injuries he's had recently. But the last time we saw him play, he got sent off. But before that, he was very, very good. And had the decision gone the way the majority of people, fans, pundits, players, ex-players think it went, he would never got sent off. He was obviously would have still got injured, because he got injured in training, it would appear. I don't know when he actually got injured, but it didn't appear injured when he was being sent off. So I can only ascertain it was in training or whatever. But people will be saying he played really well against Leicester, was integral to us
getting what
would have been 3 points. That's moments in football. That's the fine margin between, having a great career, a great game, a great journey, and players obviously just falling the other side of it. He's a good player, a player that I think McKenna will make the player he was. And look, unless you're telling me we've got a great player who's not on loan, who can, like Massimo Luongo, for example, great player for us last year. A lot of love for him because he's been part of the journey.
Yeah.
But is he better than Calvin Phillips? No. Even the player you're thinking about, in terms of Calvin Phillips now, forget the Euro player, the international player, the Man City player. Is he better than Phillips right now?
No.
So then why would you want to make your bench weaker? Why would you want to, because for what is what, 60 grand, 70 grand, 80 grand a week, which isn't your money. The owners can certainly afford it. It's part of the budget. You've already committed to it. Why?
But it wouldn't surprise me though if you look at the area of the pitch, or certainly the players that that probably don't need to be having somebody come in to replace them. It's probably the central midfield area, right? We're probably more than covered at the moment. But it wouldn't surprise me if we go out and get a central midfielder. If you look at our previous transfer windows, we've signed players where, on the face of it, you think, oh, why are we signing him? We've already got players in those positions. But they actually then become a first team player, or certainly a integral part of the squad. So it wouldn't really surprise me if we went and got out a central midfielder from somewhere.
I think in the summer you'd be prudent to, because you have got to start eventually planning for the Morsey to be, eventual Morsey replacement. What is that word? It starts with a what is the word I'm thinking of here? I can't think of the word I'm thinking of, Tux. Where you plan for a replacement, you got that plan in place and you bring somebody in, I'm going to find it after the show and I'll put it out. I can't believe a man of my years is. So I'm on the go. But you have eventually got to start looking for that replacement. Succession. That's it. Succession planning. You got to start succession planning, Tux. That's what I was looking for. Oh, I need to fucking see in there somewhere.
I was going to say, there's something you would see, but yeah.
I know, I can see a C in my mind. I was thinking C. It's a succession? Succession? Contingency. There's another word. I knew I started with a C. Contingency planning. Like, see, they're all coming. This is why I love my community. Brilliant. Absolutely love them. Coming to my rescue. But yeah, that's what you got to eventually start doing, Tux, right? At some point, you've got to start planning for the eventual replacement of Sam Moore. You just got to. He's not going to play forever.
Yeah. Yeah, but I suppose, like, aren't you considering that in January? Because, as I say, it really wouldn't surprise me if we go out and get a central midfielder. And okay, yeah, we're probably more than covered for bodies in that area. You know, Cameron Humphreys is out on loan and he could come back. Do you know what I mean? But the point being is to add real quality, Premier League quality, whether that's on the bench as a starter, whatever it might be. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. And I think somebody else, it might have been Phil, that mentioned about Luongo. You know, would you not get rid of him, but like, would he go in January? You know, where's he going to go? Do you know what I mean? But the point being is we need to look at improving now.
I wouldn't, just because I'm focused I would just focus on essential areas, put all the resources into that, and whatever's left, then start to maybe look at other areas of the team. Because I don't actually think fans would tell me we might need a right back. Touch. Do we need a right back? I think Harry Clark and Ben Johnson are perfectly capable of getting you through until the end of the season. I really do. Look, if they're not, you've brought one in the summer, and you've brought one in the year before, perhaps. The year before. And if you're already thinking you need to move on from both of those, that's not a great place to be in terms of recruitment.
I suppose it depends, like, what Axel's situation is. I don't know how long he's been to be out.
He must be out for this season. I mean, he had to go and see a specialist, didn't he, for a hamstring? So it'll be a few months at the very least. I mean, I'm not a doctor. It might surprise you to know. You know, not knowing what succession or contingency word I was looking for. I'm not a doctor, thankfully. But you know, you have to think it'd probably be a few months. What's
essential? What do you sort of class as essential signings or positions?
Big word for me. It's a big word for me this evening. That essential. Striker, pure and simple. If I think we can get I think we can get through with Ben Johnson and Harry Clark. I really do. I really do. But a striker, as we're finding this weekend, is pivotal. As we're finding most weekends when Delap, runs his race.
Yeah.
You need that. And, George Hurst looked good in glimpses before he got injured. But again, they were glimpses. We've not seen I want someone proven if I can, or somebody that's got a proven quality in the game. And obviously they put £25 million down on the table for Ioannidis, the Greek striker. You wouldn't do that unless you felt he had some real quality attributes. Yeah. Having already spent, by the way, money for Delap. Yeah. So if my timeline in my mind is correct on that, so I obviously viewed him as someone who could, have a very similar trajectory to perhaps a Delap. But it's a striker. I mean, it's goals win games, games win points, points win survival. Hopefully, yeah. So who are you playing right back? Let's move on to the back four.
Probably Johnson.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to go Harry Clark. I just thought he did all right, but I mean, you could play either one really, and not really feel too much.
I think the only reason why I wouldn't say Clark really ahead of Johnson at the moment is that Clark is great going forward, but I've always had a question mark over his defending or defensive ability. Whereas, Johnson hasn't really covered himself in glory, if I'm honest. But, I thought he had a really solid game against Tottenham, albeit it was a month ago now. But, you'd like to think, against the bigger sides, he might be a bit better. But
I imagine it's still O'Shea and Burgess for you with Leif Davis and Muric in goal.
Yep.
And Muric in goal?
Don't get me started about Muric.
No? Well, okay. He's my goalie for Saturday. Is he yours?
Yes.
Okay. There we go. Contingency. Jack Swain's obviously on catch up. Or just using my internet. And he's just put contingency randomly in the chat. he's on one of the two, either on my internet or he's on catch up. Either way, thanks for the comment, Jack. We appreciate it. All right, last but not least, in this, well, let's face it, we've defended like we did at West Ham during this show. Really, our internet's played up. We've had costly errors. I go. My word for contingency was like Calvin Phillips in the first minute, giving the ball away. We've had, it's not been our greatest performance, but we've dug in. All right, we've reached the end. Only lost 4-0. Or was it 4-1 that day? What's the score prediction, please, Mr. Tuxford?
1-1.
1-1. Okie dokie. It's a point. I'll take it. Why not? Because you're 4 points out of 6 from the last 2 with Arsenal and Chelsea, and I fancy us to get something out of that Arsenal game. I just fancy us, and we'll talk about that more over the Christmas period. But just secret, something inside me says you're going to get something out of that game.
Well, I mean, either way, there's some very big sides coming up, very big games.
Mm-hmm.
We have to get some points from somewhere, and if it's anything like what we did at Tottenham, you can't really rule us out. But as I said earlier, anyone can beat anyone in this league. So who knows?
Imagine taking 3 points off Tottenham and Arsenal back to in away games. Yeah. Love that. Right, anyway, so Tuck says 1-1. Let us know what you think. This show will be offline for a period of time while I edit out us disappearing and reappearing and then disappearing and then reappearing. But thank you for watching. Thanks for sticking by us. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to Stowmarket Osteopaths. Give Freddie a call. He's the gov there. Don't live life in pain. Give Freddie a call. 01449 613 633. And Phil says we need to start winning some home games, please. And I think he's absolutely right there, Tux. We do. And let's hope we start this weekend. But he's been the peaky one, Mark Tuxford. I've been your host, the Gov. Thank you very much for watching. Appreciate it. Look after yourselves. Have a great evening. Enjoy the rest of the week. See you Saturday for hopefully 3 points. Bye-bye.
You make me smile when I think of you. If I am down or when I am blue, I can't get enough. You make me happy, I feel so fine. Oh, how I wish that you were mine. I can't get enough. I woke up all soaked in sweat, with chills running down my neck. I thought went crazy from just the thought of you. A long blonde hair.